Hey y'all, it's another Gettin Real with Ashleydawn. I'm Ashleydawn and we're about to get real. So, I got into a conversation with somebody the other day and it annoyed me and it got under my skin like it does every single time, and I'll tell you why. When people that have never walked through what you are walking through try to give you advice on what you need to do in a situation that they themselves have never experienced, it drives me bananas and grinds my gears, okay? If somebody is giving you marriage advice and they ain't never been married, if somebody is giving you advice about how to have kids or raise kids and they have never had kids themselves, fostered children, adopted children, or been a teacher, or been a nanny, or have had children that they have taken care of primarily, they have been the primary guardian, right? Tries to give you advice on how to raise your children. Or when someone that's never cooked tries to tell you how to cook. Or when somebody that's never done this tells you how to do this. It's frustrating, it's annoying, it drives me crazy. One of the biggest things that drives me crazy is when somebody who has never experienced the loss of a parent or somebody very close to them tries to tell you how you are supposed to grieve. And I'll even go a step farther than that, and I'll say, even if you have lost a parent, but maybe you weren't close to that parent, your experience with grief is going to be a lot different. And if you don't have a close connection to your parent, you cannot give advice to somebody else who does have a close connection to their parent. Okay, so here's what happened. Somebody had asked me a couple days ago how I was doing, and I just said I'm really struggling. And they had said, well, why are you struggling? You know, you have Jesus, you're a Christian, you're a speaker, you go all over and you encourage people, and you're constantly motivating others and mentoring, and like how can you be struggling? Which is funny because literally every person on earth struggles with something. It's just different, right? We all have different struggles. So, and I'm not perfect. Like, yes, I love Jesus. Yes, I preach. Yes, I teach. Yes, I disciple. Yes, I mentor. Yes, I motivate. Yes, I do all these things, but that doesn't take away the fact that I'm a human being and life is hard and I have my struggles just as much as anyone else does. And I would even venture to say I have more struggles, because when you are an ambassador for Jesus, when you do use your life to point others to him, the enemy has a huge target on your back and is throwing fiery darts every second of every day, and you have to have your shield up and you have to be armored in the armor of God to withstand it. So anyway, one of the people had asked me, how are you doing? I said, I'm not doing too good. The holidays are really hard. I miss my dad a lot. And I started crying. And they're like, why are you crying? It's been 3 years. And I literally wanted to punch them in the face right there at that moment. Just a real quick, jab to the throat. But I had some grace and I said, you know what? They don't understand. Like, yes, it's been 3 years, but when you love someone as much as I love my daddy, and when somebody is such a part of your life, 1 second seems like an eternity without them when you're that close to them, right? So it was very frustrating, but I just, extended grace, and I'm like, that's fine. You have no idea the relationship that I have with my dad, so I'm just going to give you grace. So they then went on to just talk about what I should be doing and how I should be handling it, and I should be over it by now, and is my mom dating anyone, because she needs to date somebody and she needs to get over it too. And I had more grace than I probably should have in that moment. I should have just cut it off and walked away, but I was just whatever. But here's the problem. If you haven't walked through a miscarriage, you can't tell another woman how it feels, because you don't know. If you haven't walked through a betrayal, if your husband hasn't lied to you and cheated on you and betrayed you, you can't tell someone else how to feel. Every person's experience is different. But if you haven't had the experience at all, you literally have no say-so in their life whatsoever. So anyway, a lot of the wisdom that I have to speak, to teach, to encourage, to preach, to whatever, comes from living through crap, living through hard stuff, going through betrayal, going through infidelity, going through all these different things. Some were done to me, some, I just happened to be a part of, And so when I look at it, I'm like, God has allowed me to go through these awful circumstances so that I could help others. Yes, if you're trying to help others, that's great. But if you haven't gone through the circumstances yourself, understand that you're helping them is going to be very, very limited, because you have no idea how hard it is. You have no idea what they're going through. If you have never been married to the love of your life, and you have been best friends, and you've been together since you were 17 years old, and your entire lives have been spent walking hand in hand, praying together, and doing every single thing together, you have no idea the love between those two people. It does make me a little upset when people ask me if my mom's gonna to remarry, or if she's gonna date again, or why she hasn't been dating her. And I'm like, do you have any idea what happens when two people love each other? Do you have any idea? No, you don't. Zippity doo dah. Like, no. Anyway, so this person was telling me how I should be dealing with my grief and what I should be doing, and that I should be over it by now because it's been 3 years, and grief is a place to pass through, not a place to live. And I'm like, hold up, as Mendia would say, hold up. Grief never stops. Okay, I'll say that again for the people in the back that just think that you are just amazing. Grief never stops. It never stops. It changes, it goes through many forms, but it never stops. Okay, my best way to explain this is if you get a body part amputated, if you get your arm amputated, or you get your leg amputated, or you get a finger amputated, that finger, that arm, that leg is never going to be there again. It's never going to be there again. It's not going to grow back in time. You're not going to get over it in time. You're going to have feelings and emotions for the rest of your life. Every time you're going to look at that missing body part, you're going to remember what it was like when you had it. You're going to remember what your life was like when you had it. You're going to have to overcome things without it that you wouldn't have had to overcome with it. And okay, you get a prosthetic. It's never going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. Okay, you start dating. It's never going to be the same. Okay, you get remarried. It's never going to be the same. Okay, maybe you have a relationship with your husband's dad, and your father-in-law. It's never going to be the same. Something is missing from your life, and as long as it's missing, it's always going to hurt you. It's always going to hurt you. People with amputations, like they get things amputated, they have phantom feelings forever. Some people experience lots of pain at the amputation site that never goes away. Some people are on medicines for the rest of their life because it still causes them pain. Now, different amputees go through different things. Some get prosthetics, some don't. Some get prosthetics that look real, some get metal prosthetics, right? Every person deals with it differently. So how dare somebody tell you how to deal with something you got amputated off of your body? They can't. So how dare somebody tell you how you are to grieve or not to grieve? Here's the deal. My best advice to people grieving, which I have a lot of friends in my news feed that are going to be watching this. That's why I'm doing this. My best advice to you is to be real with yourself and to be real with others. And then to go through it, to sit in it. If you need to scream your lungs out, scream your lungs out. If you need to cry your eyes out, cry your eyes out. Do not stuff it. Do not try to ignore it. Do not pretend it's not there. Do not have, unhealthy addictions or distractions to where you go to alcohol or to sex or to drugs or to, unhealthy hobbies like gambling. Somebody I know started gambling when their husband died, and it took them on a whole different journey in life. Do not try to fill the void of a person with an unhealthy habit. When my daddy went to heaven, I went to Disney. I mean, I went to Disney when he was here, but I went to Disney a lot more because I just wanted to have fun and I didn't want to have to think about it. And when he was here, he'd tell me, he's like, Ash, go be a kid. Go have fun. Don't worry about taking care of me. Don't worry about doctor's visits and advocating for me. And, you know, because me and my mom were basically his nurses and his advocates and really did everything for him. And he's like, go be a kid. Just go have fun. And so I would. And so after, when he went to heaven, I would still go to be a kid because it made me feel closer to him. And when I would go, I would think about him and I would, you know, get excited because when I would come home, I would always tell him how it was and I would always tell him how my day was. And so I told him about it and I was like, Daddy, you know, like I did this. And so when I started going after he went to heaven, on my way home, I would talk to him. And I'd tell him about my day and I'd tell him about all the fun things that I got to do and all the people that I got to meet. And so that helped me heal. It helped the wounds to kind of heal. They're still there. They still hurt if you touch them. But it helped me. Oh, I gotta get over because this lane's closed. It helped me to process the pain. It helped me to understand that it was okay. It's okay to feel. It's okay to hurt. When you have somebody that is your best friend in life, that is your dad, that is your prayer partner, that is your sermon writing partner, that is literally your best friend, and they're not there anymore, and you can't pray with them every morning, and you can't ride your motorcycles together, and you can't cheer each other on when you go speak. Me and my dad were literally closer than any father-daughter that I've ever met in my life. We were best friends. We did everything together. I would rather hang out with my daddy than anybody on earth. In high school, I would rather hang out with my daddy than anybody on earth. Every summer, him and I would take the entire summer and we would just travel, just us. And it was awesome and it was amazing. And I treasure those moments. We would get up on a Saturday and go on road trips. We would, you know, hop in the car and just go have fun. We'd go pick my mom up from the airport and just go in circles and be silly and be funny. And we'd take pictures and we'd go yard sailing and garaging. And we just, everything we did was fun because we were there together. And we would crack each other up and we would just laugh and laugh and laugh. And some of the hardest moments in my life, discovering my ex-husband had an affair on me, discovering his infidelity, discovering, you know, everything. My dad would just hold me and he'd just let me cry and he'd play with my hair and he'd just tell me how beautiful I was. In the bad moments, he was there and he would just hold me and he would just hug me and love on me. And in the good moments, he celebrated me more than anyone else. Every time I ever flew anywhere, he'd be waiting on me at the airport with a big sign that he hand-painted. It said, "Welcome home, Ash. I missed you and I love you." He'd make me things. He'd draw me pictures. He'd cheer me up. He'd give me little surprises when I'd get home from work to let me know that he loved me. He did the same thing in different ways for my mom too, but he cheered for me. Everything I ever did, he was right there supporting me, telling me how great I was, telling me how much he loved me. When I was in pageants, he was telling me how much I didn't need to be in pageants because I was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen. Me and my dad were best friends. And so when someone says, "Oh, it's been 3 years," yeah, but has it? Have I stopped living? Have moments stopped coming? Have memories stopped being made? No, they haven't. Just him being a part of them have. And that hurts. Every moment that he's not there, every time I laugh and I can't hear his laugh, it hurts. Every time I go somewhere and I see something beautiful and I think of him not being able to see it, it hurts. Every year that I get older and he's not there to celebrate with me, it hurts. Every Christmas, every holiday, every birthday, every Father's Day. The pain doesn't go away. It doesn't get better. Like everyone said, "Oh, it gets better with time." No, it doesn't. It doesn't get better with time. You learn how to deal with it. It doesn't get better. It doesn't go away. Your leg that you get cut off, it doesn't grow back. It doesn't get better. You just learn how to deal with it. You learn how to overcome the obstacles that are in your way. You learn how to, if you get a prosthetic, walk with a prosthetic. If you don't, you learn how to, wheel around in a wheelchair or have crutches. You deal with it. Grief is something you deal with every single day. You carry it. And some people carry it just by itself, but some people put it in something else. Whether it's alcohol, and they start an alcohol addiction, or drugs, and they take their grief and they put it inside of drugs, and they think that drugs are going to take it away, and it just multiplies it and makes it worse. Now, not only do you have a grief problem, now you got a drug problem too. Now, not only do you have an alcohol problem, now you got a grief problem too. Oh, now you're getting sex. Okay, now you got a sex problem too. Okay, now you got a gambling problem. Now you got a gambling problem too. It just magnifies the problem. And then, okay, then you lose your job. Then you lose this. Then you lose this. And it's like a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. Or if you do have grief and you don't deal with it, and you just lock it in a closet somewhere and pretend that it didn't happen. It did happen, and it hurts. But you need to process through it. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have hard days after 3 years. It is okay. It's been 3 years and a month? 3 years and 2 months? And I still cry myself to sleep sometimes. Not every night, but sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll be driving down the road and it'll just hit me like a wave. And I'll just start crying because I miss my daddy. I miss my best friend. And that missing him doesn't go away. You're not going to forget about somebody that was the most important person in your life. You don't just forget about them. And to people that have remarried, that's okay. That's your choice. But even that, they still hurt. Yeah, they may have remarried, but there's still pain from what was before. Yeah, you can heal, but there's still going to be pain. I have stitches on my back right now because I had some skin stuff that I had to get cut off. And I'm going to have a scar. That scar is going to say, hey, you're missing a piece of your skin. I have scars all over me. The scar is not going to go away in time. If I put Mederma on it, and it may fade a little bit, but it's always going to be there. I had an awesome plastic surgeon when my head went through the windshield and a drunk driver hit our car, and my head went through a windshield and I got glass all in it. I had a great plastic surgeon. I use Mederma every day, but guess what? That scar is still there. Those scars are still there. The hair doesn't grow back where the stitches were. When you go through something that rips your heart out, the pain doesn't go away. It doesn't just disappear. Even though you think that it does, even though you think that it will, it doesn't. We need to stop putting all this pressure on ourselves and on others. If you haven't experienced it, and I'm going to say this as nicely as I can, shut up. Shut up. If you have not experienced it, shut up. You have no right to say. You can love on people. You can encourage them. You can say, the best thing you could ever say to somebody that's hurting is, I'm here for you. That's it. I'm here for you. Don't say anything else with that. Just say, I'm here for you. Or I love you. I love you is another great thing to say to somebody. I love you. I'm here and I love you. You don't need to give them advice. They don't want it. Trust me. You don't need to give me advice. I don't want it. I do not want your advice. I don't. I know what I'm going through. And yes, I can go to counselors and I can go to therapists and I can go to pastors. But at the end of the day, nobody knows my relationship with my dad other than me and my mom. Because it's always been the Three Musketeers and God. But you don't need to give somebody advice and tell them how to live their life and how to do this or how to do that. Just love them. Let them hurt. Let them grieve. Make sure that they're doing it in a healthy way. Like I said, don't fill that void with another void, a bigger void. It's like digging a hole you can't get out of. Don't do that. That's not a good idea. But you're allowed to grieve, and you're allowed to grieve for as long as you want, as you need to. I shouldn't say want, because nobody wants to grieve, but it's been 3 years. And I honestly am prepared that the rest of my life, until I go to heaven and I see him again, I'm going to be grieving. Because my dad was the best friend I've ever had in my life. And I'm sure that when my mom joins him, it's going to be that much harder. Somebody who gets something amputated doesn't die. They keep living. It's just different, and they're living without something. So if you're struggling with grief, just look at it like that. You're still living, and I pray that you continue to live, and I pray that you have the power to live and the strength to live. And, you know, if you're suicidal or you're really struggling with wanting to live, I would say reach out to somebody for sure. Because I have a lot of friends that have dealt with grief, and it's made them want to die because they want to see that person in heaven. But that's not the answer either. I just want to encourage you. You're not alone in your grief. You're not alone. And I know I have some friends, you know, that they wonder, okay, well, did my parent go to heaven? You know, did they go to hell? That's a whole nother topic. I truly believe that we think we know who's going to heaven and who's going to hell based on the lives that they lived and the choices that they make or have made. But I think that when we get to heaven, we're going to be very surprised from the people that are there that we didn't think would be there, and the people that we didn't think would be there that are actually there. I think that at the end of the day, we need to worry more about the life that we're living and how we are showing the love of Christ than we need to worry about how other people are living and showing the love of Christ. Does that make sense? Like, for instance, if I do everything that I can to show God's love, right? If I do everything that I can to show God's love, that should be my number one concern. I shouldn't be worried about if the girl across the street from me is doing everything to show God's love. I shouldn't be worried about my neighbor. I should be worried about myself, because I can't control my neighbor. I can't control the person across the street. I can, however, control myself. So let's worry about how we're living. Let's worry about our example, and let's let other people go through what they need to go through. If, you know, you recently had somebody die and you're currently wondering, you know, if they're in heaven or if they're in hell, I would say believe the best, you know, pray and ask God maybe to reveal it to your heart. And then I would say worry about where you're going, because regardless of where they went, I know this sounds terrible and it sounds very unloving, but it's already done. You can't undo what's been done. You can't unscramble eggs. If they're dead and they're in hell, there's nothing you can do to get them out of hell. If they're in heaven, there's nothing you can do to get them out of heaven. So, and I know that sounds really harsh, but it's the truth. And so I would believe the best. I would believe that they're in heaven, and I would ask God to reveal that to you. You know, God, where is my loved one? Reveal it to me, and then give me the grace to accept whatever that answer is. And then I would worry about yourself. I would worry, where are you going? Do you know where you're going? Do you know where you're going to spend eternity? I can say with a surety and a confidence, I know 1,000,000 trillion, all the percent, that my daddy is in heaven. How do you know that, Ashleydawn? Well, because for one, he accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior. That's the number one thing to go to heaven, is you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and you follow him. You accept his gift of love, and you allow that to change everything in your life. And he did that as a child, and then again as a man, as he rededicated his life to Jesus. My dad was a pastor. He loved the Lord with all of his heart. Every single thing he did pointed to Jesus. He loved people more than I've ever seen anyone love people. I know that he's in heaven. We were singing hymns before he went to heaven, and I know 1,000,000% that's where he is. Ashleydawn, where are you going to go? I'm going to go to heaven too. Why? Because Jesus has been my Lord and Savior even from before I was born. He already planted that seed within me. And then when I was born and every day after, I have lived, and I will continue to live, to serve the Lord with all my heart, soul, and strength. And so I know I'm going to heaven, and I know that one day I'm going to get to see my daddy again. And that is the greatest hope that I have, is that it's not over. It may be over for this chapter on earth. I may have only gotten 30 years on earth, but I get a whole eternity in heaven. And so if you're watching this and maybe your loved one is in heaven, and maybe you are, questioning and like, well, am I going to go to heaven? I want to see my loved one again. Pray about it. Maybe spend some time asking God to lead you and guide you, and asking God to show you what he has for you. God has good things for you. You are loved. You are seen. You are celebrated, and you are loved. I kind of did that out of order, but you needed to hear that you're loved twice. I am sorry that your heart is hurting. I am sorry that you are grieving right now. I am sorry that people have given you advice that you didn't want. I'm sorry that people have told you what to do and when to do it and how to do it. I'm sorry that they've done that. You don't deserve that. I'm sorry that they think that they know more than you. I'm sorry that they told you to date and you're not ready. But what I'm not sorry for is that Jesus is going to meet you in your pain, that Jesus is going to meet you in your grief, and he's going to hold your hand through it, that he's going to be there with you, and he's never going to leave you. I just want to encourage you, because I am there right now. I miss my dad every day, but I can promise you that Jesus is holding my hand in the missing. Jesus is holding my hand in the grief. And no matter how bad it gets and how sad it gets, Jesus is close to the brokenhearted, and my heart is broken, and Jesus is close to me. Jesus is close to my mom and her heartbreak too. Jesus isn't going to leave you. He's not going to leave you to cry by yourself. He's not going to leave you to go through it by yourself. He loves you. I hope this encourages you. Forgive the people that have given you advice that you haven't asked for. Give them grace. They don't know what you're walking through. And ask God to help you, because he will. If you need anything, I'm here. If you need somebody to talk to that understands a heart that's broken, send me a message, innerbeauty101@hotmail.com, and I'll do my best to respond and email. You can comment on here. You can comment on Inner Beauty 101 Facebook page. You can comment on Inner Beauty Ministry Instagram page. If you're not already following, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. Please follow. Please follow on all the social medias. Please share this video with somebody that you love, maybe somebody that's going through this too. Please share my other videos. That really helps out a lot. If you save it, that helps out too, especially on Instagram. Share it, save, subscribe. If you'd like to support me in any way, you can Cash App the $ Inner Beauty 101. It's a huge blessing. I also have Venmo, and I forget the other one. I have a Patreon, but I haven't set it up yet. So I appreciate you. God is using you. God is going to speak through you love and kindness in the midst of your pain and your grief. You are not alone. I love you. Also, another thing, some churches do a grief share program. If you'd like to go to that, I've never been, so I can't say if it's good or bad, but I know that a lot of churches do that, and I'm hoping that it's good. So I love you, and I will catch you in my next one.